You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com. All right. Welcome one and all to the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels Network. I am your host, Mr. Mike Riley, of course, and I am joined by my incredible and lovely and intelligent co-host, Miss Cam Robson, and my girl, Charlie Sandy. Say hello. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome. I want to say hello to everybody who is joining us. It is Thursday, April the 6th, 2017. Everybody that's watching on Facebook Live, as always, I got to say what's up. I got to say what's up to everybody that's listening on iTunes, on Spreaker. We are definitely on iHeartRadio. We are on Google Play and all the other places that you can Google and find Mike Riley Now. Make sure you log on to MikeRileyNow.com and make sure that you follow me on Instagram, the Twitter, the YouTube, and all the other social media crap that's going on in the world right now. All right, so first of all, I want to apologize to everybody. I took a week off last week. I had to do that because I was out trying to help people get elected. We had a special election here in California in the 34th District, which is kind of like East LA, kind of downtown. We had a vacant congressional seat because the person that was there, whose name slips me right now, he took Kamala Harris's place as the Attorney General of our state since Kamala Harris went to the Senate. So we had a special election, and we had to fill that congressional seat. So I went out campaigning all last Thursday and all this weekend. And my candidate did not win, but God bless her. Shout out to Sarah Hernandez. We're going to get her in there again one day soon. So, yeah. All right, but we're back this week. There's so much to go over. The week, it's funny because I was going to start this show off like this, right? I was going to start the show off by saying it hasn't really been an eventful week. The election was a good 4 months ago now. A lot of cool stuff has been happening. Yes. But this week, it's starting to get kind of boring again. Politics is starting to go on its slump. We're talking about Supreme Courts, justices. We're talking about a bunch of just kind of boring stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, this happens. Syria got bombed. Syria.
Or is in the process of getting bombed.
Or is in the process of getting bombed. Then this just happened as we were kind of putting ourselves together.
Like about a half an hour
About a half hour ago. So, and this is what the show was going to be about tonight. Our the whole premise of the show, the nuclear spring.
Mike had a precognition.
Yeah, I called it nuclear spring. I'm the guy that comes up with all the cool names for stuff.
Sure, we let him think that.
Yep, got to stroke my ego just a little bit, but
because it's spring and we're going nuclear.
And we're going nuclear. It's spring and we're going nuclear. How smart am I? But that was going to be the premise of the show tonight, was to talk about all of the stuff that's happening surrounding everything that's going nuclear, including the nuclear option that was invoked today by Mitch McConnell to kill the filibuster and to get Neil Gorsuch nominated to the Supreme Court. He will by this time tomorrow he'll be Justice Gorsuch. So he's getting nominated, but we're going to talk about that later. I want to start off by talking about what happened in Syria. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a background. Where should I start? Well, unless you've been living under a rock, which some of you have.
Be nice.
A couple days ago, Syria launched a chemical weapons attack against some of its citizens. They launched some sort of nerve gas or missile that pretty much made the people that it killed die very slowly and made them suffer a lot. And a lot of children were killed in that process. Now, this isn't the first time Bashar al-Assad has done this. And Bashar al-Assad is the president of Syria, by the way. This isn't the first time he's done this. By the way, I'm going to give a quick disclaimer. It's spring is starting, and I'm one of the hay fever types. My allergies are killing me. So if you hear me sniffling and sneezing on the mic, just pray for me. Robitussin is not the answer to everything, I promise. Right?
No matter how much it tries to
No matter how much I pour it in my open wounds sometimes. But so Bashar al-Assad, this isn't the first time he's done this. Back during the Obama days, in the Obama administration, Bashar al-Assad launched a chemical attack against the Syrian rebels. He did this. And when he did this, Barack Obama retaliated by issuing a certain amount of sanctions. He armed the rebels, but he didn't put any boots on the ground. He didn't go to war with anybody. He didn't bomb anybody. The reason why is because he said that it can lead to a military quagmire. In other words, we're going to start a bigger problem. Now, everybody remember, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about who is in league with who in this world these days, right? Don't forget that Russia is an ally to Syria. Russia is helping Syria fight their war against their rebels, against the people that were out there protesting Bashar al-Assad and his evil ways. Now, don't get me wrong. Not all of Syria is completely screwed up. But there are some parts like Aleppo and parts around Damascus that are completely screwed up. Okay? So, in the midst of all of this, you had Bashar al-Assad come out as soon as Barack Obama's out of the picture. Quinky dink, I don't know. As soon as Barack Obama's out of the picture, Bashar al-Assad, I guess, kind of grows a pair, and then he decides to go ahead and just bomb him again. Maybe he thought because Trump and Russia are supposedly cool with each other that maybe Donald Trump wasn't going to do anything. And in the midst of all of that, North Korea is acting up.
In the words of our president, they're behaving very badly.
They're behaving very badly. North Korea has been launching some of its old 1970s missiles that it got from some terrorists back in the day at Japan and a couple of other targets. I just made fun of their missiles because they're just not hitting anything. Not that that's funny, but
yeah, it's not that funny. But
it's like, not. But
it's more until like, it's your place that they're aiming at, and
right.
then
it's more of like a
funny.
laughter of fear. I think it's more of like a.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just clowning Kim Jong-un because he thinks he's a badass and he can't even hit nothing. But wait till he does hit something. I'm not going to be talking like that. But he's been playing games. So we have Russia penetrating our elections. We have Russia helping Bashar al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad bombing his citizens, right? You have a refugee crisis happening all over Europe. You have North Korea who's going crazy and about to kill everybody. And then you have China kind of caught in the middle.
It sounds like a really fun family reunion.
Oh, Lord.
It sounds like Cold War Part 2, to be honest.
I don't know how cold this war is going to be.
Exactly. Well, it sounds like right now we're in a continuation of the Cold War, and it's about to be the Cold War that gets hot.
Right.
It's about, you've got North Korea acting up again. You've got Russia supporting new regimes popping up everywhere. Before it was Vietnam, slimy. Now it's Syria.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've got America sitting here going, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And we've just done something.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to do turned into we just did some big shit. Launching
panic mode. We went into panic mode.
Let's press all the buttons and hope it does something. Turns out that means we launch 50 Tomahawk missiles.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just say it. I'm of the opinion that Trump acted completely out of emotional angst. He was in a position where he could have kind of slowed down on things a little bit. But in my personal opinion, and don't get me wrong, you got to do something. Yeah, I can't knock Trump for not doing nothing. At the end of the day, you got to do something. But still,
Syria needs help, but not like this.
But what we've done isn't going to help anything. It's just gonna create more panic and create more, disaster surrounding it, and it's just gonna kind of freak people out, I think, a lot.
Well, I mean, of course it's gonna freak people. Everybody is freaked out.
Well, yeah, but it's like it's not gonna help the people that are in fear for their lives every day. Right. It's not helping the situation at all. It's not like we're talking to them as well and trying to kind of figure things out. Granted, talking may not always work, right. But it's better than Syria. Sending 50 Tomahawk missiles and bombing one area.
It's exasperating the issue instead of helping it.
It's overkill.
Right. Yeah. And also, too, think about it from this perspective. Now our goal is to get Bashar al-Assad out of power, right? That's obviously what we're trying to do. Are we trying to send a message, or are we trying to get the man out of power? I don't know. But if Bashir al-Assad gets taken out of power, then what happens in Syria? Will it be the same thing that happened in Libya? Will it be the same thing that happened in Iraq? Will it be the same thing that happened in Egypt? I'll tell you what. I don't know what to do. It seems like we're in a rock and a hard place kind of situation. It seems like if we do nothing, then, we're kind of playing into the hand of we don't care about the world's problems. We don't care that, or we care that children are getting killed.
We're playing into America
But,
first.
right. We're staying out of it like we did with the world wars. And then, if we decide to do something, we're kind of getting into it with a lot of our allies, a lot of our enemies, and a lot of everything in between, because we don't know what's going to happen with Russia now.
It's not even that. It's that even in history in general, America, if they weren't in the war to begin with, or they're not the main kind of target, we go in with all guns a-blazing, like totally like screwing
we go 0
with
from
everything.
100.
Like it's like
100.
it's like we're like bang bang bang, like there's no in between at all.
Yeah,
like,
it's all or nothing.
It's like
it
we're
is all or
not
nothing for
physically
America.
able to just go in. Hey, we would like to help. Can we do something? Or like, oh, here, let's send a few people to help everyone else out. Like we don't need to send our entire army and millions of missiles to one. Like we just don't have the capacity for some reason to just go in and think about things before we do it.
Well, war happens to be a profitable game.
Big time.
So spending,
especially in America, it's how we get out of the Great Depression.
Exactly. So sending 50 Tomahawk missiles might even be something that, because we have to buy those Tomahawk missiles from somewhere.
It's going to be economically
it could be economically
beneficial.
good. But my Aunt Linda, she's on Facebook Live right now, and she brought up something interesting. She said that his effort is not effective and possibly illegal. You know what? That's actually a good point, because Trump did not seek any type of congressional approval.
So he
or anything along those lines.
Hits the red button and everything happens.
He exercised extreme executive power over this.
Right, he exercised extreme executive power over this, exactly. And now we have a situation where there may be refugees on the ground. There may have been Russian people or Russian troops in that airbase that got bombed. Mm-hmm. So we really don't know. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago on this show where we discussed war in the 21st century. Shit, I mean, it ain't gonna be like us digging trenches and sitting around and shooting at each other from afar and shit.
There's definitely going to be a much larger mass casualty
and a much shorter war. It's going to be about a month of fear till we're all dead.
It's going to move so much quicker because we can cause so much
more catastrophe,
more damage,
more destruction,
more
without even trying.
We can cause mass destruction.
Yep.
And,
without ever we can cause mass destruction without ever leaving our living rooms.
Right.
Like we can all kill each other without putting a single boot on the ground in another country. Absolutely. And that's the war in the 21st century. So I'm going to go ahead and remain pessimistic. I'm going to remain optimistic. Wrong word. I'm being pessimistic. Remain optimistic while realistically being pessimistic.
No, I'm going to go ahead and remain optimistic in this situation. Don't get me wrong. I think Donald Trump is crazy. I think he's kind of dumb. I think he's incompetent. I think he's crazy. But at the same time, I think that I believe he has more sense than that. I think that he'll try to find a more strategic way to go about this. At least that's my hope. But in the event that or that doesn't happen, or let's say Syria doesn't retaliate, or Russia doesn't retaliate, or something like that, then maybe it'll just send a clear message to Syria that you cannot do this. You cannot use chemical weapons against human beings. That is absolute torture. It is inhumane and it is wrong. And those are his own citizens. That whole Arab Spring started because people like Bashir al-Assad, who's making all the money in the country off the oil that he's selling to Russia and letting Russia come in and do everything, his citizens were being choked out. You have all this money for yourself, but not enough to feed the people in your country. They revolted. We don't know who shot who. But now this is what we have. All right, y'all. We'll be back on the other side of the break. It's the Mike Riley Now podcast, right here on the Young Angels of America Network.
Listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.
All right, y'all. Beautiful, beautiful. And welcome back to the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. I'm your host, Mike Riley. I don't know how y'all don't know that already. But
it's in the title.
Wait, what's
it's in
your
the
name?
title. What's my name?
What's your name?
So, Riley, can you tell us? Riley Mike.
Right, but actually my name is Lorenzo. But
Can we call you Lorenzo now?
No, you can't. That's a long story. I'll tell you one day.
Lauren.
Yeah, Lord. Hey.
Renzo.
Renz, Lolo. I get that a lot. Before we start news of the week, hopefully we'll be able to get to it. I do want to talk about the other nuclear thing that happened today. Okay, and this is to try to educate people who may not be familiar with what's going on in the Supreme Court. So, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the last show, Supreme Court Supremacy, where we talked about how Neil Gorsuch, who is Donald Trump's Supreme Court pick, will not get a Senate hearing to be nominated to the Supreme Court because the Democrats in the Senate will not allow it to happen. The reason why is because when Barack Obama in his last year tried to appoint a Supreme Court justice to take Anthony Scalia's place, the Republicans, the Senate Republicans, refused to let it go to a hearing. They could have just voted down, but they refused to go to a hearing. They refused to let it happen. So what happened was Chuck Schumer, who's the leader of the Democrats, did what they call a filibuster. Now, for people who don't know what a filibuster is, a filibuster, how can I explain? I'll filibuster with my foot. No? Okay, no, a filibuster. No.
Not quite.
Bad jokes, badjokes.com. A filibuster was something that was enacted within the Senate and congressional rules that says that if you want to challenge a certain bill, you can do it for as long as you want, and it will never go to the floor to get a vote unless there's some sort of special circumstances that turn it around. So let's say, for instance, Cam wanted to launch the No Charlies bill, right? And she put it on the Senate floor, and she's like, I want to put the No Charlies bill. Yeah, no more Charlies. And
I'm insulted. I don't need this.
The No Charlies bill. So I get on the floor and I say, you know what? I don't believe in this bill. I'm going to filibuster it. So I get so if it passes the House and it comes to the Senate, I get to get on the floor and I get to talk for as long as I want.
You can talk about how great I am for as long as you
I could,
want.
Charlie's biscuit recipe is actually really nice. As a matter of fact, the longest filibuster in the history of the United States Congress was Strom Thurmond. In 1957, he filibustered the Civil Rights Act. He filibustered for 24 hours and 18 minutes to keep black people from voting. And that same year, that's when the South Carolina hoisted the Confederate flag high above their state capitol. And that's where it stood until in 2001 it got moved to their state grounds. And that's where it stood till a couple years ago when that kid went in that church and shot up all those people. So just goes to show you that part of their history is that part of our history is very, very, very deep. Anyway, and I digress. The point I'm trying to make is that the Senate Democrats put the filibuster in place today because they said we are not giving Donald Trump's Supreme Court pick a chance. So what happened was Mitch McConnell, who's the leader of the House Republicans, he enacted what's called the nuclear option. The nuclear option gets rid of the filibuster. Remember, Congress runs the country. It's not the president. It's kind of the Supreme Court a little bit, but it's mostly Congress. Nothing happens without Congress because Congress can change all the rules if they want to. They can amend the Constitution. They can come up with different stuff as long as it gets voted on, right? So Congress just decided to change the rules today. So there will be no more filibusters. And the reason why they changed the rules is because we have 100 senators in the United States Senate, right? So with 100 senators in the United States Senate, that means if something wants to go to the floor and get a vote, it has to have a clear majority, meaning that they have to have at least 60 votes for something to go through. Now, they don't need 60 votes. All they need is 51.
A straight majority.
They just need a straight 51 majority.
And they did this because they knew that Gorsuch wouldn't get signed in because they could not reach 60 because of this filibuster.
Right.
There was absolutely no way that he was getting sworn in because they couldn't reach 60 votes. And so instead of thinking, maybe there's a reason we're not reaching 60 votes, maybe it's because nobody wants him as
maybe because he sucks.
Court justice,
we decided to go in.
We
and
decided
change.
to quote unquote go nuclear, which is never a good thing. Like, why would you call something nuclear? It's never positive.
Yeah, who came up with that name?
So you can't be like, yay, we're gonna go nuclear, and think it's like a positive reaction to something.
Every time we've had something either named nuclear or had to do with nuclear, there's always been some sort of negative impact on everything.
Right.
And you can't, I mean, it's so much like they've just sort of put their fingers in their ears and gone la 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 la, not listening to you, because it could not be laid out more clearly. You will not reach 60. You will not reach the majority. And instead of them going, they went, we're not listening. We're just going to lower the majority now.
Just like they did with Merrick Garland.
Yes, exactly.
When somebody came up and they said, hey, how come Merrick Garland isn't getting a Senate hearing? All Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and the rest of Republicans did was they put their fingers in their ears and, they were just la, 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 la. They didn't want to hear it. So now they can change the rules. And that's what sucks when you have a majority, which is why it's so important to vote. We have a midterm election coming up in 2 years, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag 2018. Focus 2018, because that's what we have to do. So in conclusion, just to give you a background on what happened, and if you kind of understand it, the nuclear option was enacted today in Congress, which gets rid of the filibuster. So that means that there's going to be no more filibusters.
And a big fear of this is if Republicans can literally change laws like this as quickly as today, then what else are they going to change? Because it doesn't suit their
agendas,
their own personal agendas.
It doesn't, and I'm telling you, they're going to gerrymander the districts even more in 2020, and they're going to have a lot of the state houses too. I'll say it. Republicans have to either lie, cheat, or steal normally to win, and I promise you that is not me bullshitting. All right, the Republican Party. Excuse me.
Not all Republicans.
Not all Republicans.
We are not targeting
I'm not targeting Republicans, but I am targeting the Republican Party. That platform is ridiculous. All right, let's do a little bit of the news of the day so we can kind of catch y'all up on some stuff. I decided to do the news today on things that were like not as political.
Maybe
because,
a couple happier things, hopefully.
Well,
possibly?
this is kind of a happy story. Hold on, let me see if I can get it to pop up real quick. But the first story, hold on, let me load it up. I should have seen. This is why preparation is always a good thing. But the first story is Hawaii is deciding to treat homelessness as an illness and use housing as the cure. And this is according to Vice News. Excuse me real quick. Right, I was going to play that for you, but I decided not to. It says Hawaii has the highest homelessness rate of any American state, and it was the first to declare the problem an official state of emergency in 2015. Roughly 19,000 people in the state are considered to be chronically homeless. That is on the streets an expected period of time with a disabling condition. My goodness. So Hawaii receives about $2 billion a year in Medicaid, but that money is often spent as inefficiently as possible. So what Hawaii is thinking about doing now is they're thinking about creating a system to house the homeless, because they're treating it more like it's an illness versus a condition, kind of like drugs right now, right? I mean, that's what everybody's saying now that the heroin epidemic is kind of hitting in different areas. Now it's being treated more like an illness versus being treated like, oh, you're a drug addict. And I think that's a really cool thing. I think that's good that Hawaii is doing that. I didn't know Hawaii had the.
It has quite a terrible homelessness problem.
I forgot Cam's from Hawaii. I totally forgot.
Actually, so my mom is from there, and then so we go there, multiple times a year. Yeah, it's quite a big problem. But a lot of the times, I think that people don't quite realize it because they have this kind of fantasy of Hawaii and the tropical, and once you leave kind of the resort areas or like the main kind of areas, you don't quite realize the amount of devastation that's going on in these really beautiful places, and it's almost like the beauty of it masks everything behind it, which is it's quite interesting kind of, because we're never staying in these big resort areas because we go and stay with my mother's family. And when we leave and just kind of travel around it, it's like most people don't go into the areas we do. And it's just kind of heartbreaking to look at. And and a lot of people don't realize the big problem is that Hawaii's not connected to the mainland. So the land that they have is the land they have. There's no more land for them to
So if you end up stuck on the island, you're just stuck there.
Yeah.
So
which
if you get homeless,
a lot of the problem is that people, don't go for a college education, or they decide their college education, they're going to go to the University of Hawaii, which I'm not bashing that at all. It's a great university, but they're stuck there. They then never leave the island, which is a really, really big problem. Right.
Well, homelessness is a problem all across this country and in LA too, and we need to start treating it in a different type of as an epidemic, so we can actually get to the bottom of it. All right, y'all, we will be right back. This is the Mike Riley Now podcast, Young Angels of America Network. We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.
All right, y'all, and welcome back to the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. Shout out to Brooke Doherty, the executive director of Young Angels. Log on to youngangelsnetwork.org. Brooke is right here. She is in the house. Brooke be working hard. God bless you, Brooke. She is killing the game. I'm going to give you some applause over here. Yeah, she's doing her thing. Brooke is getting us a lot of far places. And for those of you who are in California, and if you're a Democrat and you are Team Blue, I will be at the California State Democratic Convention May 19th through the 21st. I'm going to be out there doing what we got to do, getting involved in the process, meeting the people we need to meet, talking to our state houses, our new governors, things like that. So May 19th through the 21st, I will be at the California State Democratic Convention in Sacramento. If you want more information, go on MikeRileyNow.com. You can join me there. I'm probably going to fly up there, but if I get enough people, we can carpool. So,
road trip.
Yeah, road trip up to Sac. So, but it is going to be a good time. It's going to be a time for us to get involved and a time for us to change the party from within. So, yeah, anyway. All right. So let's jump back into it. We're going to get into economics because I miss good old fashioned economics here. So let's talk about what happened a couple weeks ago. So a couple weeks ago, this law came up on the floor, which was a law that basically says that internet service providers, right, like AT&T, Cox, Comcast, whoever, they can now take your browsing information, so all your browsing, they can take that data and sell it to a corporation. And that corporation, in turn, can advertise to you. So in other words, it's kind of taking away your privacy. Now, before this wasn't legal, the FCC, who was the Federal Communications Committee, I think that's what it stands for, this was something they stood against. They said you can't just go into people's browsing history or look up people's what they browse and the things that they do and sell it to a corporation. You can't do that. You can't. That's an invasion of privacy.
Well, it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution.
Well, you have a flip side to that. Think about the way Republicans think about it, right? Republicans look at this like this is a free market. Why is it that an internet company can't take people's data on the internet, which is quote unquote, I guess, a public place, and use it to make another dollar?
So it's sort of like in between the Freedom of Information Act and an argument of privacy?
It's more like an argument against the Fourth Amendment and the free market.
And the free market.
Yeah, because there's always this thing about the private versus the public sector, which is something that always happens. For Republican, and by the way, not one Democrat voted yes on this bill. This was a completely Republican effort.
But a number of Republicans happened to vote against this bill as well. So it wasn't a sole...
Can you hand me that purple folder back there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a number of Republicans actually did vote against this, but at the same time, I'm sorry. I'm a team player, so I'm gonna go ahead and just throw shit on the other team. Not one Democrat voted for it. I know, right? But a couple of Republicans didn't vote for it either. But the point I'm trying to make, and I'm just kidding, Republicans, by the way. I just like taking shots at you. I have here a list. And if you go to this website called opensecrets.org, you'll see something pretty interesting on the front page, right? So basically, what we're dealing with is the telecommunications industry. This is something that they want, right? The ISPs, the internet service providers. And the reason this is because, look at the ISPs that we have now. There's only a few internet service providers left in the country. When the internet first came around and was traveling through phone lines, you had multiple internet service providers, kind of like you had multiple cell phone companies when cell phones first came out. And now they're all kind of getting consolidated into just larger companies, right? So these larger companies have a lot of money, and these ISPs are trying to find ways of making new money. These internet service providers have given so much money to these politicians that voted yes on this bill, it's not even funny. I have here a list, and if you go, like I said, you go to a website called opensecrets.org. I'll post it up on MikeRileyNow.com. They have a list here of every single member of Congress, both in the House and the Senate, who voted yes or no on the bill, and how much money they took from the telecommunications industry. It's right here. It's pretty damning, as a matter of fact. Now, I'm just going to read a few off because this goes to show you the role that money kind of plays in politics and how much influence it has, right? So we'll talk about, first of all, I don't want to bash all Republicans. There is a brother by the name of, hold on here, let's see, Mo Brooks from Alabama's 5th District who voted no on the law. So God bless you, Mo Brooks. I don't know nothing about you, but at least you voted no on the law. But because I don't agree with the law. But let's take Ruben or Trent Franks from Arizona's 8th District, for example. He's taken $26,500 from the telecommunications industry last year. Now, I personally think, and like I said, I'm going to post this up on MikeRileyNow.com so that we can get a better look at it. I personally think that this type of corporate influence over our politicians, which is where I think this law comes from, is really the big problem in this country. It's really that problem of oligarchy and where it leads to. Which kind of leads me to net neutrality. Do y'all know what net neutrality is? Does anybody know what net neutrality is or what it's about? No, not too much? Okay. Well, a couple years ago, here, I'll try to read this off. A couple years ago, the internet service providers, once again, try to pass certain laws so that way they can charge a certain amount of money for specific bandwidth, right? So in other words, like if you want to go to Google or if you want to go to Facebook or you want to go to Netflix or something like that, the internet service providers would charge you more money, and they would be able to charge you more money and profit off of the level of speed that you get from your computer or from your browser and everything else like that. And basically, a lot of politicians on both sides of the aisle kind of came out and said, no, that's not right, because the internet is a public place. It's a place where everything should be equal and people should be able to go there and use it, and businesses should be able to compete and everything else like that. So that's what net neutrality is. The net neutrality laws were the laws that we're saying, or that we're trying to get pushed through, so internet service providers can have a bigger stranglehold on the internet as a whole. Now, I'm just curious to know what y'all think out there, right? How should we govern the internet? I mean, think, because, you go places like China and North Korea and stuff like that.
And it's censored.
Yeah, they have, like, no internet. You can't even get on Facebook in China.
Yeah, no, and there are specific days that, like, they've blocked out from you knowing about, like, days of massacres that might have happened within their regime. You can't look it up. You can't even look up today or... I can't remember quite what the day is, so forgive me, but let's just say, for example, it was May 1st. They would say something like April 32nd, or they'd try and find loopholes, and they're not letting that happen. They're so restrictive on what they allow people to see on the internet, and it's partially because of this censorship, because they don't want their people to know the history that they have the kind of shady elements of the history, whereas America's always been quite open. I mean, we kind of hide a couple things.
Right, we hide a few things, but yeah, and still, because the internet could be a very lucrative tool. I mean, look what happened during the Arab Spring. Egypt started their entire revolution on the internet. It was all done through Facebook for the most part. A lot of the things that are going on now are through that same platform. If we get into a situation where corporations have a stranglehold on that, if they say, it's kind of like the way TV is now, right? Like most people I know, they don't have regular cable anymore. They have like Roku boxes and like the Apple TV and the Amazon Fire Sticks and that type of thing, right? And now, instead of just paying for just cable, now you got to buy the apps if you want to watch something. So if you want to watch stuff on Showtime, you got to pay like the $5.99 a month. If you want to watch stuff on Netflix, X, Y, and Z, right? And I think that's what the ISPs are trying to do to the internet. If you want to go on Facebook, you got to pay this much. If you want to go on the porn sites, you got to pay this much. If you want to watch movies or stream, you got to pay this much. And to have that kind of stranglehold on a public entity from the private, I think is really what takes the power out of the people's hands. And this is a common occurrence. It happens a lot in the real world, but for it to happen in our cyber world, a corporate takeover of our cyber world, of the internet, I don't know. I think it's a slippery slope.
I think it's a Republican's wet dream.
Yeah.
Whoa,
I mean, but it's what they, in every single aspect, they say, less government regulation. We don't want to be ruled by this one massive entity.
Right,
But then they go, corporations.
Right.
And they allow our lives to be dictated and controlled by these mass corporations, which frankly actually have less responsibility and less want to do right by us than the government. At least the government was created for the benefit of all people. These corporations that are controlling society right now have absolutely no investment in our societal happiness.
No, absolutely not. Well, I mean, the point of a corporation is to make a dollar, or the point of the business is to make money, right?
Yeah.
So the corporation's entire sole goal is to make money. If I'm a corporation, I have to find a way to make a buck. And that's what these internet service providers are doing now. They're trying to find more ways to make money off of people. It's not about the people, it's about the money. Corporations are there to make money. Government is supposed to be there to help the people.
And if we have to be ruled by one or the other, which would you rather have?
Not to mention, we live in a democracy where you are the government, where you're supposed to be.
By the people, for the
By the
people.
people, for the people, all that jazz. But, people have to get involved. And that's the way it works. But I'm curious to know what y'all think. Do you think that this is just a means of a free market? Do you think that internet service providers should be able to collect your browsing data and sell it to a corporation so they can sell you something? Do you see anything wrong with that? Or do you think that's an invasion of privacy? And do you think that should be that should be off the rules? And how do you feel about net neutrality too? Do you think that corporations should be able to take over the internet? Because for right now, the internet's a public utility, like water, gas, electricity, and things like that. So I'm just curious to know what y'all think. Hit me up on Facebook. Let me know on Twitter and all that other cool stuff.
He's just lonely. He wants to talk to some people.
To some people, yeah. Hit me up on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that and just say hi. Let me know what you're doing next Friday night. If you're out there and
you suddenly turn to your late night.
Yeah,
talk to,
you know what I mean?
Know what you're doing this Friday night.
If you're in the Boston area, just send me like a FaceTime chat or something like that.
It's a little desperate.
Yeah, desperation is that's
spending his Thursday nights doing this. So
yeah, exactly. That can lead to desperation for sure.
Excuse me.
It really can. One more thing I did want to talk about before we end. I did want to talk about a little bit about how a lot of the Trump administration is kind of starting to unravel. We didn't get a chance to get into Michael Flynn or Steve Bannon. But for those of you who don't know, Steve Bannon was Donald Trump's national security advisor.
He's been ousted.
Yeah, he pretty much Donald Trump replaced the Joint Chiefs with him, and so he got the boot today.
See us. sucker.
Yeah, he is outro, and nobody quite knows why. And Michael Flynn, who was somebody during the campaign, was talking a whole lot of shit about if somebody's under FBI investigation, they shouldn't be allowed to run for president and all this other crap, and lock her up and whatever else the case may be. Asked for immunity if he gives testimony to the Russian gate thing. Which kind of makes you kind of raise an eyebrow, like, what? Why did you ask for immunity? Are you complicit? You know, I'm kind of wondering here. So, the dropping out of Steve Bannon and that whole thing with Michael Flynn and Trump's administration starting to kind of crumble, especially with all the things that are kind of happening in the world right now, it kind of leaves us in like a weird spot. You know, what's kind of going to happen if the Trump administration doesn't have, you know, the people in place necessary to kind of handle these sad situations that are kind of happening right now.
Also, let's just acknowledge how fast it's crumbling around.
Oh my God.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we just also acknowledge that? Like, I knew we all kind of thought it was going to crumble pretty fast, but like, this is insane. It's like,
it's been like, what, 4 months? Barely?
Not
13 weeks.
Yeah, it's only
But
been...
can I also say that recently Donald Trump have also said to the press that this has been possibly the most successful 13 weeks in the history of a presidency. You can quote me on that.
Donald Trump said that?
Yeah, he said it in the press while he was on a plane talking about the Syria incident.
But we already knew he wasn't the smartest guy, so...
My God, well, I mean...
I was just sitting there like, have you ever heard of FDR and his New Deal?
Yeah, like, this is the most successful 13 weeks ever.
Have you ever heard of not failing on 2 travel bans, not...
Yeah. Oh, and then he tried to throw Trump care back out there.
Yes, of course.
This week too, and he tried to throw Trump care back out there and to kind of appease or please the Freedom Caucus, which are the extreme ones in the Republican Party. He kind of took out all the pre-existing condition stuff, which is like half the reason why which is one of the main reasons why people loved Obamacare so much, is because now health insurance companies can't discriminate against you for having a pre-existing condition. So that was also a hashtag fail on the Trump administration part.
This whole week has been a hashtag.
A hashtag fail.
This whole 13 weeks have been
hashtag fail. All right, y'all. Well, that is our show for this week. I have to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who's been giving me great feedback on the show. God bless all of you. God bless Charlie. God bless Cam. God bless Brooke. God bless everybody on Facebook Live and on Spreaker who's listening. And I think y'all know the saying by this point, to quote some great scholars, democracy is not a spectator sport. It does involve you. You have to get involved. We are all in this together, despite what all of the masses say. There is no such thing as self-autonomy. We are all connected no matter what. That is the American thing to do. All right, y'all. We will see you next week. Make sure you go on MikeRileyNow.com. Follow me on the Facebook, the Twitters, the Instagrams, and all the other social media stuff that you can find out there. All right, I'm going to stop talking. Cheers.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.